Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to War in the Pacific, our Let's Play series against XTRG, where XTRG is playing as the as the Axis, and we are playing as the Allies. It is February 23rd of 1942. There's a couple of interesting things that I think we're going to wait and see what happened this turn. First off, there were Japanese cruisers off the coast. Well, I don't know if they were cruisers. We spotted a heavy cruiser, so there were Japanese ships with a report of one heavy cruiser off of Palmyra, sort of just south of Pearl Harbor. And there also is our attempt to withdraw from to the west of Changsha, back toward the islands, or not the islands, back toward Changtha, I think it is, across the river in central China, trying to get our troops out. They're cut off, they're surrounded, and we're trying to break them out so that we don't lose the cream and sort of biggest chunk of the Chinese army here in February of 1942. So that's the situation right now. Meanwhile, we're starting to turn off with a fair bit of anti-submarine activity. Some Japanese destroyers just depth charged the USS Stingray off the coast of Borneo. Japanese sub is operating south of Melbourne. Our destroyers apparently tried to depth charge it, but couldn't get into position or something. There's a Dutch sub here off the coast of Celebes. I'm not sure if this is the one that we saw just a second ago take 4 hits or not, but it looks like there's Japanese cargo ships and destroyers and a light cruiser. This is a very heavily armed task force near Mascar. I don't believe this is an ASW task force if they got AKLs. So this might be a troop convoy or something like that near Mascar. They're trying to depth charge that Dutch sub. Meanwhile, the cargo ship, the Minnesotan, was just torpedoed near Raoul, presumably on its way to Australia, I think. I don't think it was transporting any troops. That was a cargo ship, not an AP. No, like a G-Man, I didn't mispronounce Stingray that time. And some other ASW work in the slot in the Solomons. So I guess we'll just kind of see how this thing unfolds. More ASW work here near Mascar. That Dutch sub keeps getting attacked, although hasn't suffered any additional hits other than the 4 originally. More amphibious task forces unloading their cargoes on the southwest corner of the Dutch East Indies. And we're into the day phase and the air operation phase. Lots of recon here going on. We've got a bunch of recon aircraft that are sort of checking out Japanese possessions on Espiritu Santos as well as on New Caledonia. More anti-submarine stuff going on. Oh, that's a lot of... 7 hits against the Dutch sub here near Mascar. So 4 depth charges previously, 7 now. That's 11 hits. Hopefully she doesn't sink. It didn't say heavy damage, so that's the one good thing for us. But that was a lot of explosions around that Dutch sub. Meanwhile, apparently our Devastators off our carriers are spotting enemy submarines here on the northwest coast of Australia. That's a little bit concerning. We've just given our carrier task force away. If he puts 2 and 2 together to say, they're Devastators, it must be the carriers. Of course, there's fog of war on his end, so he may not know they're Devastators. It may just say torpedo bombers. I'm not sure what he sees. That's not the same as a sighting of the carriers. Yeah, Kyle, I did end up going back in and changing my orders to have them actually patrol. Just insistence from multiple folks saying, like, that's a horrible idea, you're going to get yourself torpedoed, and you may run into an enemy task force, and blah, blah, blah. So I listened to my advisors on that one. Heavy air activity this turn, some over China, and again, continued bombing over Singapore. Quite a few Japanese sallies damaged by flak there. Hopefully there's a few ops losses there. No troops hit. I think he's going for our supply with these bombers, because he keeps hitting the airbase and the runway. I'm assuming he's going for the airbase supply, which I believe directly factors into supply in the base as well. More bombing over China. I really wish that I had fighters that were based at this base as paratroopers took, so we could fly cap over these guys. It would really be fun to have like 30 Hurricanes swoop down on 12 Nates and a bunch of single-engine dive bombers. So he continues to bomb our troops that are in motion. Obviously, he's trying to slow them down. Lots of bombing raids. One Sally was destroyed by flak there. His sallies are really coming in uncoordinated. Part of me is tempted with the idea of throwing some fighters back up to Palembang and trying to jump his bombing of Singapore. But I think he still has well more than enough nates to fend us off. But man, wouldn't it be fun to just drop in on some of these poorly escorted air raids? I say poorly escorted right as we see a 35 nate bombing rate of like 7 bombers with 30-plus fighters escorting him. Granted, the nate sucks, but... Recon over China. I think most of our bases have troops there, so his paratroopers shouldn't find any targets to drop in on unannounced. Although we do have a sort of a gentleman's agreement that he won't do that for probably another 20 days or so. I need to look at what turn we're at. So far, nothing at Palembang. Again, we spotted a heavy cruiser to the west. I suppose it could have been a sub, but I don't think subs are usually reported as heavy cruisers. Our destroyers are trying to reach an attacking position on the RO-34, which is a Japanese sub at Vavu. This is the guy, I believe, who torpedoed our troop transport here. They do drop a couple depth charges. There's a few near misses, but very ineffective. Those destroyers are not very good at ASW work. They've got an ASW rating of 2. Meanwhile, Japanese cruisers are back to bombard Wangkao, which continues to hold, and he continues to pound it. They must have gone in close, because quite a few casualties inflicted there. 457, 1 squad destroyed, 5 disabled. Those he's wearing out the barrel linings on those heavy cruisers there. We might be able to surprise him in a few days. If he continues this, we've got about 100 submarine-laid mines that'll be in the port of Wangkao very soon. And I don't think he's running minesweeping operations at Wangkao, so there's a chance. 100 mines is a reasonable amount, but I don't think there's a likelihood that he's going to hit a mine, but it's possible that we might do some damage to one of his heavy cruisers if it strikes a mine. Alright, Japanese attack at Shaoyang. I did switch 7 or 8 of my units into combat formation to try and alleviate this if he did go ahead with this. That is a lot of armored units, though, there. Only 3 infantry divisions, actual divisions, are attacking here. But he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tank regiments on the offensive here. Now, the 1st tank regiment looks like it's spent itself. The 5th tank regiment also looks like it's spent itself. The 15th division, pretty badly shot up there. Its assault value went from 100 down to 12. The other divisions are sticking pretty steady. We'll go ahead and fast forward through here. 6 divisions took some casualties. The 5th division is combat ineffective. He did reduce the fortifications from 2 to 1. We had Japanese assault odds of 1 to 3, fort level 1. He lost 2,376 men. We lost 5,000. So we lost more than double the manpower. He lost more squads destroyed, however. So in terms of like actual victory points, he lost 27 squads destroyed versus 27 combat squads destroyed, 27 non-combat squads destroyed. We lost 24 squads destroyed and 5 non-combat, but the 640 disabled is really going to hurt our assault value. That is a lot of troops disabled, and we don't really have the supply anywhere in China to quickly get them back into an effective status. So they're almost the same as destroyed for quite a while, especially till we break out of here and get across this river. A very effective attack for him. That was a lot of armor. He did lose 428 vehicles disabled or destroyed, 333 disabled, 95 vehicles destroyed. That's quite a few vehicles destroyed. Now, we don't know if they're actually like tanks or armored vehicles or if they're just trucks. But 95 vehicles destroyed, that's one thing I am very happy about. We only had 1 gun destroyed, 1 engineer squad destroyed. Overall, the casualty difference makes it look worse for us than I think it was. But those 640 combat squads disabled is really is concerning. I know they help on the defensive, but they're still not quite the same as like fresh troops. Looks like our preparation and our experience were penalties against us, so we didn't get penalized for the fact that some of our troops were in move orders. I wonder how many of them may have switched over to combat when they got bombed by his Air Force. His assault adjusted was only 746 out of a total of 1,100. He was attacking 5,200, so that means some of our troops already pulled out. You can see some of these troops are already west of this base. So some of our troops already got out of there. Honestly, if he had attacked us and driven us back, as long as the casualties weren't worse, probably would have been better for us. He would have helped us out. But that's a pretty big battle there in central China. Not in terms of casualties. We've definitely seen a lot more in the way of casualties, but in terms of the significance of the results. Still, hopefully enough of his troops are disabled that it won't do a lot of... he won't be able to rapidly pursue. Japanese are launching a bombardment attack at Singapore. I don't think they've done that yet. This is a pretty big bombardment attack. You can see he's got the Imperial Guards Division, the 5th and 18th Divisions, the 21st Division, the 48th Division, quite a lot of artillery as well, and some engineer units. I don't think Singapore is going to hold out very long. That is a very well-appointed unit. I think we had been kind of wondering, like, where are all the Japanese units? He doesn't have a ton in the Philippines. And I think the answer is a lot of them are in Singapore. Certainly these guys will spearhead a drive into Burma eventually that will absolutely overwhelm us here. You can see the attacking force, 71,000 troops, 2,381 assault value, and that's not even the entire force, I'm sure. It was just a bombardment attack. On the battle itself, 53 to 50, he lost 1 squad, destroyed 3 disabled. We lost 1 destroyed, 6 disabled. So the bombardment wasn't terribly effective. We'll burn through supply, though. I'm not worried if it's double AV because the forts will really help equalize things, but the fact that he has so many engineers is what's concerning because that can overwhelm the forts pretty quickly. And the morale of our troops and the experience of our troops isn't as good. Meanwhile, another bombardment attack at Wangkao. The Allies suffered a few casualties here. We've still got 367 in terms of assault value on the defensive, and we've still got good defensive terrain, but I think the end is coming for Wangkao soon as well. Japanese deliberate attack on Lobato. They take that base. And it looks like that's going to do it for the turn. So a substantial battle in central China. Quilin expands its fortifications to level 3. I'm hoping that somehow we can get our Singapore forts back up to 5 before he can actually do much. That would be great. Actually, maybe not even back up to it. I don't think they were ever at level 5. That'd be real great if he thought they were 4, launched an attack, then they were actually 5. What I hear is that the difference in the difficulty of attacking in the game scales dramatically, that when you go from level 4 forts, levels 1 through 4, they stack, they help, there's a little bit of an incremental advantage, but when you go from 4 to 5, from what I've heard, is that it's absolutely night and day, so that could be huge. Now, I'm assuming the bombardment slows down the building of the forts, but we'll take a look. I think they were at like 54 or 56% last turn, so we'll see where they're at now. All right, so that was the end of the turn. Let's take a look at the fortifications at Singapore first. We're up to 60%. Honestly, I think it's somewhat unlikely we get to 50. Also, the supply dropped by like 3,000 last turn due to that. Well, was it 3,000? Or maybe it was less than that. Maybe it was like 1,500. But in any event, it's a pretty big supply consumption in one turn with bombardments. He didn't really impact the garrison assault value, so that's good. I don't know if he put much in the way of disruption. It looks like a little bit of fatigue on some units. Very little disruption on any of these units. So I don't think that bombardment really did much in terms of hurting us. He obviously burned through a lot of his supply, so there was that. Yeah, it doesn't really look like it impacted much, so that's at least good. Why would I turn on... No, I didn't turn on industry. I guess we turn off repair of the shipyards. Turn off repair of light industry. I can't turn off light industry. The game doesn't let you. Heavy industry is on, apparently. Does heavy industry consume... By the way, does heavy industry consume supplies? Or does it just produce supply? Resource production. I don't think I can turn that off. Light industry produces supply. What does heavy industry do? I don't even know. That's a problem. Heavy industry produces supply. Well, then I should probably leave the production on, right? Okay. Not that it matters. We don't have any oil. I don't know if it can turn fuel into supply. I think it does, but that might be light industry. I think light industry turns fuel into supply, and I think oil refineries turn oil into fuel. But in any event, Singapore won't hold long against that force he has arrayed against us, unless he delays long enough to let us finish these forts up. But that would probably take him giving us another 2 weeks, which I find somewhat unlikely. Huh. These guys are moving east 36 miles along to this railway line. Nice. So these troops, if they ever get there, they're 10 miles away. They have basically no supply. They're trying to move east along this rail line to cut his rail supply south. It won't really impact anything even if they get there, but it's a nice thought. Okay. All these ships are unloading. I think we've got another however many. We sent 5 transports south here. Another 25,000 supply. We're getting a little bit bold. We're sending a lot of ships down now all at once. These guys are going to move north. I don't think they're detected at all. They're not. Yeah, we're really bringing a lot of supply into Rangoon. We're up to 44,000 supply. Rangoon also does produce its own supply as well. It's got, is it oil in Rangoon or somewhere else in Burma? But Burma is a supply source. It's got a 200 refinery, so it turns that oil into fuel and also some supply. I'm not sure if any of the bases in Rangoon also provide oil or not. Yep, this one does. And I don't want to turn that stuff off, even though I don't want to help the Japanese. I don't want to turn it off until, it's going to help us on the defensive, so there's that. Meanwhile, we did send some Warhawks up north here, some P-40s up north to these troops in India. This squadron is trying to reform itself, so it pulled 12 Warhawks. Apparently, we pulled a bunch more fighters, because there's only 9 more, and we had like 40 in the pool. Who all pulled those reserves? 24th Pursuit Group, maybe? They've got 12 in reserve there. Could have been our other P-40s elsewhere on the map, I guess. I was thinking about taking the 20th and swapping their aircraft out with P-40s. I think this guy is the one that has multiple aces. Nope, they're not. But I guess that won't happen. We have 77 ready fighters, 82 total fighters in Rangoon. I'm curious how many of these guys flew missions, supply missions here. Quite a few, actually, I'm guessing, because there's a lot of not ready aircraft here. So a fair amount of system damage on some of these guys, anyway. Some of these guys I don't think flew at all. 9 fatigue. Versus these guys who've still just 4 fatigue. Is there a way... I don't know if there's a way to see if these guys actually flew their supply mission. And if so, how much supply they carried. I'm not really sure if there's a way to look at that. Because there was no combat for it. If we do take a look at aircraft losses, we didn't even lose any ops losses, which makes me think maybe they didn't even fly. Yeah, I'm not going to go for Manila though. That's just not a smart thing, I don't think. Japanese flew 4,200 sorties last turn. I only flew 2,100. That's a problem. I need to fly more. I need a better patrol system set up. They lost 18 aircraft last turn. We lost 2. Looks like they lost 4 Sallies to flak. No ops losses, though. 3 ANs, 2 to flak, 1 to an op loss. 2 Topsies, both ops losses. 2 Lils, 1 flak, 1 ops loss. We lost 1 pilot KIA last turn. The troops at Shaoyang, we had 6,000 assault value total, so it looks like we pulled 800 of it out already. And they're already well on their way to Chickaking, out west here. Did he pull his troops out? Does he have anything at Chickaking? Meanwhile, he also moved his units into Changthe, so he's undoubtedly going to launch an attack there. Our troops are trying to catch up. I don't know if they'll get there, and if they do, they'll probably be stuck in ops mode or move mode. Additionally, crossing a river, I don't know if they're required to shock attack or not, considering it's our base. So we might have a big fiasco at Changthe with a large Chinese formation shock attacking against an even larger Japanese formation. I guess we'll see. I'm going to move this construction regiment over the river just in the event that there's no one there. They won't get there right away, but if there are no Japanese troops, if they did pull out, I guess I want to know. And then I'm going to go ahead and fly a recon flight over here to check. We can always cancel the move order there. We'll fly a couple of recon flights over there. Because again, if there's no Japanese troops here, then we could very quickly get our troops out of trouble. Imperator, if I change him to combat mode, here's the problem. We only have 40 assault value at Changthe, so if he launches an attack next turn, we're going to lose the base for sure. Which means that I have to move him at move, even though it might mean a suicidal charge. It's the only way that some of those troops are going to get there in time. Right? Because like these guys are at 32 miles. They could potentially march 14 miles in a day, but they definitely won't march 14 miles if they're in combat mode. So that's kind of the dilemma. And there's no real point in leaving them here because if they stick here, they're going to die due to lack of supply. There's no supply line back to Chongqing. We could, I suppose, move them back to Yichang. It looks like whatever troops he had here moved back. So we could move them back to Yichang and try to move them north through these mountains, but they'd have to move through a terrain with literally no road hexes, so you'd be talking weeks probably without supply. So I don't think that's a great option here. 18th British Infantry, I think they only moved a mile today, so at that pace, they're 9 days away from getting into this next hex, probably 11 to 12 days away from getting to Miataina, and then maybe 3 to 4 days from getting to Pegu. So in about 16 days, 10 days into March, we'll have the British down at Pegu, and we could potentially try to probe out Molman and see what the Japanese have there. I'm confused. Are we just not seeing what the enemy has here? Do we just not see anything here? Or did they actually withdraw troops here? Because we're seeing nothing at Molman either now. Which makes me wonder, did he like pull some of his troops back? Or what's he doing? Where are his troops? So I'm going to run a couple of recon flights this turn. Checking out Chiang Mai, checking out Molman. I know that a lot of times if you don't run recon, you won't see anything. I think the thing that's confusing to me is the fact that I thought most of the time, when you're adjacent to the enemy, you will still see them, even without recon. Like, you'd think there'd be patrols and other things like that out. So run a recon over Molman, over Chiang Mai. We'll also run a recon here. I don't know. Midnight Crew, thanks for the raid. Welcome to the folks of you that are coming over. Yeah. Extended Tuya time. I don't know what that means. Combat mode move is 15 miles, you believe? That's a pretty big gamble. Jeez, a 6-hour EU stream. Wow. Modernizing the Teutonic Order. I usually like to crush the Teutonic Order, but I'm not very good at EU either, so. All right. So these guys drop supply by like 600. So 600 a day means we should have quite a bit of supply left. He's moving a patrol boat group northwest, hopefully up toward Buswanga. We're loading supplies up on the Zeeman here at Tarkin. We're up to 500 supply. Then we're going to move them out and get them to Kaigun to try and unload and replenish supply here. We're down to 20 supply in this base. All of our troops did get resupplied, but we need to get that 600 here, so if they get attacked again, that they can continue holding out and that they don't, you know, completely dry up on supply. Because I really think he needs to bring more reinforcements in to overwhelm us at Kaigun. I don't think there's any way for him to break the line. Now, he does have units here at Bhutan, so maybe he's already got the troops in place and they're just coming over. I guess we'll see. See, Imperator, the first turn that I had ordered them to move, I'm pretty sure they only moved 17 miles, and they were in move. A tiny bit of supply could, in theory, be transported via subs, brass. All right, Skipjack suffered a lot of damage. It's got 46%, 46 system damage. So we are going to pull it well out of the fight and move it to Melbourne. It's got the fuel. It's not float damage or anything like that, so it can get there. How's this Dutch sub doing? Okay, so this Dutch sub hasn't sunk yet. 31 system damage, 41 float. We'll order it to Sydney. Maybe you should route a safer way. Like, don't go parallel to the entire Japanese Navy. That's better. I feel like we had a lot of recon out here, but we're not picking up much in the way of ships. So we've got good recon sectors set up, but we're not picking up a lot coming into Java quite yet. These guys are flying really low readiness, and they're still getting crushed with maintenance and stuff. That's weird. All right, so we'll move 3 more Buffaloes into Surabaya. They'll merge with their squadrons there, or at least I think they're all there. While we let the guys up at Palembang continue to try and rest and refit a bit. Can these bombers hit the Japanese troops from there? They can. At normal range. Nice. So they can fly in there and they can... A small raid against Singapore, but hey, small raid's better than nothing. Got to keep him honest. I don't think he's running fighter cover or anything like that. Why are you running recon into the... $100. Wow, that's got a much better radius when you've got like 8 aircraft going out. We'll actually set it to 50. We'll go ahead and set the... Move it over that way. I want the AM phase to be... I wish I could flip the AM and the PM phase. I don't think I can do that. No, I think it just... Okay. It's better. Oh, I'm sure, Kyle, he's in the process of more invasions in the area. The question is whether he's going to go straight for Java or whether he's going to wait a little bit. Straight for Java would be a little bit risky, I think. Granted, we only have 27 fighters there, but we do have 40, or we had 40 medium bombers. Actually, we had like 70 medium bombers. We're down to 20 bombers in Surabaya, but that's because we kind of dispersed them to a bunch of other airfields along Java. So we'll see about that. Meanwhile, we are claiming there's Japanese subs north of us. I think Halsey will... No, wait, that's the wrong task force. That's the MDOM. So I think Halsey will use a waypoint to move out west a little bit. Just to get away from any potential Japanese subs. I don't know what these dots represent. What is this? What are these 4 hexes there? That doesn't make any sense. Hybrid Army 2, thanks for the follow. I don't know what that means. Why are you over there? So we set the first waypoint over here. We'll set the second waypoint out this way. Maybe we'll get rid of that. No. I don't know if it's a glitch or what, but why is that? What is going on here? What kind of tasking are you following? I mean, I don't want to go that wide. I think it's just a glitch. I think it's some kind of graphical glitch. But we'll move out west a little bit more just to be safe that he doesn't hit us with any land-based aircraft off Timor. Kopang, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. I think his aircraft have about a 24 range. So it should keep us out of his range. So I think that's relatively okay. Plumber's Mac, thanks for the follow. All right, so that should be good. No supply on a lot of these northern Australian bases, or very limited supply. Catherine, do we have much in the way of troops here? Not really. Glencurry. All right. The 2 5th Division units, I'm going to move to Catherine, just in the event he's going to land at Darwin. I don't know if he will or not, but I was kind of talking to Belugan, and his thought process is make sure you buff up Northern Australia. Darwin's a bit of a stepping stone to the invasion of Australia. So we'll do that. 4th Cav Battalion, or Brigade also move up to Catherine, which is what I was originally doing. Problem is none of these guys are on rail lines, so getting supplies out to him is a bit of a challenge. He's already headed up that way. I really don't want to... I don't like the idea of moving a division here, because it feels like it's, you know, going to be out of the fight for too long. So we move these 2 brigades. That's 160, another 120 for the cavalry brigade. The cavalry brigade is regulars, so that's good. Those are better troops. The 3rd brigade is militia, but we'll move them as well. So that way we'll be moving about 200 additional assault value, or actually, sorry, almost 300 additional assault value into Catherine to add to the 240 that we'll have at Darwin, so it'll give us about 540. The thing about Darwin is it lets him get ashore at Australia, lets him completely shut down the northern coast of Australia, lets him cut off any potential supplies going through or shipping going through the Torres Strait. And it does get him in range with his Bettys, I think. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think he'd be within range of Karen's extreme long-range land-based bombers toward Karen's. What bombers on him, like a G-Man? I don't have enough bombers. It's not that I can't use them, it's that I don't have enough. So I am going to move a bombardment task force in to Nomaya. A thing. Thanks for the follow. A bombardment task force is coming out of New Zealand with 5 heavy cruisers and a light cruiser on its way toward Nomaya to bombard him and see what damage we can, you know, what havoc we can wreak. We are not yet detected, so that's good. And actually, we can move in at flank speed now, and we can get there this turn, so that's good. So we can move into Nomaya this turn and bombard him at flank speed, and then we can be on the way out. Actually, we might be all the way back out to here before... We'll get to here and then back a little bit before daylight comes. So we'll see, you know, if he has anything at Nomaya. He may not have anything based that far forward, but just got to keep his attention elsewhere. We're moving our battalion of Australian troops toward Nadi. Small battalion. No escorts, though. Part of me wants to maybe pull a destroyer off those guys. Norfolk Island is... Do they have a port? Doesn't even look like they have a port. How are you supposed to supply those guys with no port? But we are moving an Australian battalion there to have something between Oz and Not. We should form new task force, ASW, one ship. Nope, not that one. The one with the most fuel. It's going to pull off the Lord Howe detachment. Meet task force. Meet these guys. And then merge. They can do that. I'm not sure if they'll get there in time, though. They should be faster. Those guys do make good speed, though. 17 knots. Okay, so Suva, it's up to 66% toward level 4. 5% toward level 4. And Pago is 34% to level 4. Meanwhile, we're unloading additional supplies at Pago. We're docked. 3,200 more to unload. We've got a good amount of supply at Pago Pago. 37,000. We've got our Marauders and P-40 Warhawks and P-40Es. Okay. Trying to remember where our other P-40s might have been. Yeah, this is a play-by-email game against another human. Every turn is 1 day in World War II, and it's incredibly detailed. Why have these guys not left yet? Just cancel. I don't want you to load supplies. You can get all the supplies you need in Australia. All right, this tanker's unloading fuel at Perth. We've got 14,000 on these guys. 2 tankers just arrived at Perth. Another 14,000 fuel coming in. Oosthaven, Perth. All right, those guys are headed down to Perth. Are they detected at all? No. All right, those guys are headed up to Colombo. We've got an ASW task force and an Australian division is coming down here. We need to take a slightly wider berth, especially if we're seeing enemy subs out that way. So we'll keep good and well west. It's given us a red marker, but that's just because our home base isn't Perth. I think. Yeah, our home base is still Aden. So it's basically like, you can't get back to base. You don't have enough fuel. But that's okay. Because we don't need to. We can refuel at Perth. The crazy thing is they almost have enough fuel to get back to the Middle East anyway. But the 6th Australian Infantry Division's coming in. It's another good reason to deploy the carriers out there. We can't afford to lose that division at sea. Those guys are crack troops. So they're working their way south. 32,000 fuel headed to Perth from these guys. Finally got this cargo to Diego Garcia. It's unloading over the... Is it ported? No, it's not docked, but we can dock it. 1,000 fuel will begin to unload here, or 1,000, sorry, supply will begin to unload here. So that this detachment here is supplied. They're currently very low on supply. Truant, the British sub, just arrived at Colombo. I need to think through where I want to send him. Like, where do we base him out of? Actually, we can go pick up more fuel at Sabin. They don't need weapons. They just need fuel. So we can go ahead and move them down there. Then we can move them into Japanese waters. The British subs actually have working torpedoes, unlike the Americans. And what's their experience? Are they a good crew? So their captain is what? 40 leadership, 70 inspiration, 66 aggression. That's pretty good. Vincent. L. Vincent. He'd be a better guy. It'll cost us 0 political points to put L. Vincent in charge. He's a 75 naval commander with 72 aggression. His admin isn't as good as Kershaw. I'm not sure that matters. His inspiration is not as good as Kershaw, and his leadership is not as good as Kershaw. I don't know if those matter or not. I guess I'll go with the naval and the aggression. You can't mutiny on a sub, right? Got a bunch of ships about to arrive at Colombo. We're bringing some extra fuel down. Bringing quite a lot of fuel down to Colombo. All right, these guys just left. Oh, no, they didn't. These guys, someone over here just left Abadan. Probably these guys, 21 fuel, on their way to Karachi. So we'll go ahead and build another task force here at Abadan. We'll do a cargo task force. We'll go ahead and load fuel. So these guys will get 27,000-ish of fuel. I think plus the 9,000 from the Norfold. I'm not sure how that works. Banjax, I'm just kidding. All right, so they're there. They're there. Meanwhile, the 7th Australian Division is on its way as well. So that's the 23,000 troops here. Is the 7th Australian Division, another division of Australian crack troops. They're on their way to Karachi, but I may divert them to Australia as well. The question is whether he's going to invade Australia or whether he's going to invade India. Either one is a viable option. I think he can take all of China and we won't lose, but if he takes China and he takes either India or Australia, then we will lose. Australia is the easier route, per my understanding. In terms of ships under repair, the Ken Imbla is 2 days from repair. The British battlecruiser Repulse is down to 73 days. Was it 74 yesterday? And the Prince of Wales is almost under 300 days. The Queen Elizabeth still 5 days away. We really want to get those ships finished up so we can free up dock capacity, which will help repair times on these other ships. But it's good to see that the Prince of Wales float damage is now below 50, surviving all those attacks. Could XTRG take Ceylon? Sure. Or Cellulon, or however you pronounce that. I like to say Ceylon. I know that's not how you pronounce it. I think I've had like 20 people tell me how to pronounce it, and I still can never get it right. Sure, theoretically he could. I mean, we have troops there. We don't have a ton, but we have some troops there. I don't know what to tell you. Yes, he could land there, and he could take it. I'm not sure to what purpose, right? Like, he could use it as an airbase to shut down supplies coming south from the Middle East. That would be valuable for him. He could use it to dominate southern India with his air force. That would be useful. But it doesn't really help him take Rangoon or Burma all that much. I mean, yes, it cuts our supply lines coming in here, but I don't think it would be the best use of his resources. Not really. So there's shipyards in Ceylon, but I'm not using them really. So they've only got a level 40 shipyard. The off-map shipyards are actually much more efficient. So at Cape Town, we have the bulk of our fleet repairing. Things repair much more efficiently off-map at Cape Town than they do on-map at Ceylon. A raid is possible, but I think he needs to... I don't think he's going to do much in the Indian Ocean, at least until he takes Singapore. And once he takes Singapore, I imagine he's going to want to use some of those troops to take the Dutch East Indies. Okay. Can we get them back there? Nope. What about to Rangoon? Nope. Does Port Blair have fuel? A little bit. All right, so our mine layers will go to Port Blair. Hopefully there's enough fuel there. There's 49 fuel. Oh, wow. Okay, these guys won't even use all the fuel at that base. So their mine layers will go there to try and get away. The other mine layers, I think, will also go here to try and get a little bit more fuel. Because, again, they basically have no fuel that they use. These guys, the harbor defense mine layers, I don't think they can get anywhere. They're kind of stuck here. I can send a lot of them to Port Blair, but I don't have enough fuel at Port Blair to get them all out. So we'll have to see what happens there. Okay. These guys carry more fuel, so hopefully these AMCs can get out. So we're trying to evacuate some of our light craft out of the Dutch East Indies. That's what's going on up there. Meanwhile, this sub-tender, the Holland, has made it through the strait. Hopefully there's no Japanese subs around. It's kind of surprising. I thought it would have gotten torpedoed by now. All right, we'll move him down to Perth. I need ASs in Australia badly. West of Coast Ghosts. All right, kind of sticking out west. Okay, so yeah, no, I mean, I get it, Pat. It's definitely a problem if we lose Cylon, but it's also not something that I have a ton of forces to defend with. I mean, sticking a division there to try and prevent him from taking it, and then losing Burma because I don't send the division to Burma doesn't leave us a whole lot better off. Okay. Meanwhile, our subs are almost there. Our mine lane subs will arrive at Wencao next turn. Maybe they'll even lay mines on top of these enemy APDs. Why would he have AP? No, those have to be destroyers. Maybe they'll even lay mines on top of his cruisers. Unfortunately, their torpedoes are pretty worthless, so that doesn't matter. All right, those guys are moving northwest. They're already 20 miles in. Started pulling these troops back. They're moving 30 miles, so that makes sense. 30 miles on a major road. The problem really comes down to air cover. I think they'll still cover 17 miles here if they get hit with air. But if I deliberately put them in combat, I don't know if they'll get the distance. I'll play around with it. We'll see. I don't think my air units can get to Changtha anyway. Yep, 7's too far. It is 7. Damn! Okay. What about our air wings on the carriers? They suffered some random amount of damage the other day, like their fighter wings did, and I don't know why. Like, why are these guys not at full strength? Now, most of the fighters are now, so all but 2 of the fighters got back to full strength. But, like, why? The British carrier has 3 Fulmars and 3 Sea Hurricanes out. Okay, but what about the Lexington? 4. Why does she only have 4 fighters out of action here? 7 here, 8 here. I don't understand that. I don't understand what happened to the planes and why they're like that. Now, we'll get them back probably before they get into action. I don't imagine anything will happen in the next 5 days. Also, by the way, it's nuts that they track fatigue of an airframe. That is crazy. This isn't fatigue of the pilot. This is airframe fatigue. That's insane. Yeah, I get it's wear and tear, Pat. I'm just saying the fact that a game would track individual airframes in a game like this pretty crazy. All right, so nothing came of whatever his ships were over here at Palmyra. They disappeared, so I guess they could have been subs. Meanwhile, we're detecting enemy subs up north here near Johnston Island. Johnston's a little bit weak. That's the biggest concern I have, is if he went to like try and land at Johnston. Because he's within range of Pearl. It's only got a level 1 airfield, though, or level 2 airfield, but no real prospect to build it out more, so... Can I get use flying boats to get more troops away from isolated bases and move them to Java? There's not really a lot of isolated troops left. There's a couple down here near Flores. Actually, no, those are Japanese troops. And I don't want to leave these bases unguarded. I want to force him to land on some of these bases, like this battalion of 48 assault value. I want to force him into land an SNLF force here and to spend time. I want to force him to spend time at Den Paz Base Force. I don't even know if I could pull it out. It is a restricted headquarter. Yeah, so I don't really want to withdraw troops from isolated bases. I don't want to give those bases up for free. So that's my thought. Palembang is so weak. I know I didn't do the Fortress Palembang strategy. Okay. You know what we should have done is laid mines at Ambion with all of his battleship. What's this? It's a PT boat? At Nemelia? Why would he have PT boats there? That's weird. Can we lay mines? Do we have mines to lay? Mark 10 mines. If we change their mission to sub-mine lane, could they load? It could load 10 mines in theory. I don't know if it's smart sending a 46 system damage sub into action, but I am going to try and lay some mines at Ambion. Ambion. However you pronounce that. Subs at Darwin are still repairing. His troops have arrived at Port Moresby, folks. Whatever he has here crossed the mountains. They're now at Moresby. We have 254 assault value at Moresby. That's not great. He can probably beat it. Level 3 forts, an adequate amount of supply. 1,300 troops are on the way for the 44th Indian Brigade, trying to bring additional combat power to Moresby. They might arrive next turn. They might start unloading and arrive next turn. But he has troops in Moresby, so that is a big update. We have a coastal battalion of troops here that's on their way to Horn Island. I'm tempted to redirect them. 17 infantry squads might be useful. 17 assault value might be useful at Moresby. I feel like Horn Island would benefit more from coastal guns, just given where it's located in this strait. It's sort of a vital position to guard. But the 17 squads of infantry would sure be useful in Moresby. I don't know how good his troops are. I don't know what kind of shape they're going to be in, how much supply they'll have. I think one thing that we could do is we could order a ground strike for the Hudsons that we do have against the troops he has there. Okay. I don't think we have a base we could fly out of. I don't think Townsville's big enough for 17s to fly out of, nor is Cairns. Yeah, none of the airfields are big enough for an offensive B-17 strike out of there. They're all too far away for direct support from Oz. I don't have more bombers. I have some... Well, I do have Whirlways. I hate the idea of abandoning my naval search, but I guess it won't really matter anyway if we stop it for a turn. So we'll do the 24 bombers here. We'll leave the recon aircraft doing recon activities. Whirlways, be good for something. Can these Banshees get up there? These guys have to be removed also? They're all going to die if Moresby falls. I hate the idea of sending more aircraft to certain doom, but I just sent 12 Army Dauntless dive bombers. The A-24 Apaches in here. I think they won't be able to bomb till next turn, though. I think it takes between... When you transfer units, I don't think they launch air raids the same turn. So, I mean, I don't have enough aviation support there, really, to support more than that. Destroyer's moving southeast. These guys are moving... Those troop transports? Shit. Where are these guys going? Could he be preparing an actual landing on Moresby itself? Southwest. That would be putting them in that direction. I know you don't have a lot of fuel left, but... Alright, we need a tripwire here. I can mine Moresby, but probably not in time. Right there. I don't know for sure he's headed that way either, for what it's worth. I don't think he'll get there quite this turn either. He's got to, I mean, he's got to have fighter support for him, right? He's not sending him in with no fighters, is he? How are these cruisers, by the way? Do we dare send 2 light cruisers against what is probably a much more heavily armed force? I don't want to use up like Arthur Palliser. He's obviously our best admiral. Or one of our best admirals. Youngler, though, that's not a bad trade. All right, we'll send him out here. A light cruiser task force here. 6-inch guns. These are good light cruisers. The E-class, heavily gunned, modern light cruisers, they're worth quite a bit in terms of victory value, so I feel bad kind of throwing them away. But I need to put together a scratch force just in the event he's trying to reach around to land at Moresby. I don't want to get him too far out there because I don't want to just be like, yeah, sure, bomb me. But we'll send the Pope. It's an American 4-stack Clemson destroyer. They're not very good, but it's more guns. I don't want to leave the escorts of these guys going into Moresby. We'll go ahead and send the Louisville up as well. Just, again, in the event that they may not get there in time. But we'll get them out of port here. Send them up north. wonder if I can... So we've got a mine layer, the William Desan. Does he have mines on him? He does. So we'll set him to lay mines. Go ahead and put him out to Moresby. He'll probably get torpedoed and sunk. I don't have any escorts out there for him. See if we can... Trying to rejugger some of my task forces here. Meanwhile, we've got a bunch of fuel that's arriving in Australia. Some 36,000 fuel is currently unloading at Melbourne, however you pronounce it. Dock them. The irony is, it's like you burned half your fuel getting here. Now you need to replenish so you can get more fuel. I mean, Vavu we should mine, but it's less urgent than... Mining Vavu is less urgent than trying to do whatever we can to maintain Moresby for just a little bit longer. Alright, let's also set up a sub-mine laying patrol. We'll see. Loads mines. Marked. Oh, okay. No more mines available in the pool. Alright, so we'll get these 5 subs up here. They're going to load up some mines and get them up to 62 mines. Get them up to Moresby. I don't even know that he's going for Moresby. He could be going at the Australian coast. But that feels like a little bit of an overreach. If he is. Again, if he's actually moving troop transports, I highly expect him to heavily outgun and wipe out our light cruisers. But in the event, it might burn some of his ammo and maybe do some damage and push him back. Okay. Also, that brings up an interesting thought. We have this heavy cruiser task force already on its way. Maybe, rather than bombardment, we switch these guys to surface combat. Rather than burn ammunition that could be more valuable up north here, we move them that way. We switch their base of operation. They can't rearm, but they can refuel at Townsville. Burn quite a lot of fuel if I move them that long a distance at flank speed. But we will move them north. Give them a wider berth. So we're going to move these heavy cruisers north, and we'll see what develops up here. And honestly, even if he doesn't go for Moresby, I'll use these cruisers to bombard Port Moresby. I'll drop the heavy cruisers in and hit him with our heavy cruisers. Now the one risk is that we remember he had his light carriers over this way. He could move his light carriers through the strait here, through the Torres Strait. I can't quite reach out far enough. I don't have any real good intel. Just about the only thing we have here is the S-20. So what we can do here is the S-40. We can try set up a 2-hex patrol with this sub to pick anything up that's coming through the Torres Strait. These subs, do they need fuel? Well, these guys are in bad shape. Real bad shape. Bad shape. Bad shape. All right, all these guys need to repair. Our good old friend, the Salmon, yes, I know, I said it that time deliberately, is also going to set up a patrol. She only has one torpedo left, but I still want to see if I can patrol this area. Carriers could be at Mascar. There's a lot of shipping in and around Mascar. So they could be up that way, Neuhauser, but I just want to make sure that if we're going to move a bunch of forces toward Port Moresby, that our flank at least has a screen. And that we can move those ships up north. 5 heavy cruisers is not a task force to be sneezed at. All right, so that kind of does it for the situation out west there. It's a bit of a longer turn. I don't really have a lot of updates in and around Palmyra. I'm not sure what he did with his surface task force that we saw, whether it really was surface or not. Haven't seen anything else out this way. We've got a bunch of ships moving to scout different bases. We've got subs headed into the Marshall Islands to scout a bunch of bases. We have subs headed into Canton and Howland to scout them. I think we have one heading toward Funafuti, just to kind of see if he's staging out of any of these bases. There is obviously the risk that we run into a mine. Ugh, sure hope we don't do that. Our battleships are still repairing at Pearl. 34 days more on the Oklahoma. All right, let's do this. I'm going to want to move some of these air units on the U.S. East Coast. P-38 Lightnings, eh? Too bad they're restricted. Is there a way to search by non-restricted HQs? We're going to move as many of these guys to San Diego as we can and start... I should have done this a while ago, but start getting these guys sent out to the front. There's no reason that our best fighters shouldn't be on the front. They can train on the front line. Okay. Some of these air units are still restricted. I should have done this months ago. And it may come back to bite me, the fact that I didn't. Okay. I can send them via railway from New York to Cape Town? Really? Interesting. I did not know that, Pat. I think they'd get there faster going from the West Coast anyway, though, because Cape Town to Australia via ship is 30 days. It's 38 days just to get to Cape Town, based off this. So, then another 30 days on ship from Cape Town to Australia. It's 2 days to get to Seattle or San Francisco or any of those bases. I'll do the rest of this off camera, guys. Not going to move probably everything, but so I think that's probably going to do it for this turn. We'll see what happens in China. We're trying to pull out. I'm hoping that we've got the rest of these ground units out before he can launch another attack. All these guys should be... Yeah, these guys are all at... Well, some of them are at 30. Some of the units are at 30. Some are at 40. One of them is a rear guard. He's going to die. He's going to die! I'm assuming he's going to attack again next turn because he did have pretty good results last turn. A good chunk of my troops should be able... They might all be able to pull out. If they really can march 17 miles, or if they only march 15 miles in combat, then we might be in trouble. But if they can march 17 miles, then they should all get out in time. Unless he waits another turn before he attacks, in which case, okay. That would be great, but the bulk of our troops here look like they're still stuck at 30 miles. Which is a problem. Because as even more of our troops pull out, he's going to defeat us in detail as he hits some of our troops strung out on the roads while the others are already gone, and then our strength will be even further reduced. Good news is all of our troops still have full supply here. You can see they're all in white, which means they have full supply. The base only has 598 supply left, which means one more attack like that will basically completely deplete our supply. But the good thing is we're not leaving any real supply behind for him to capture also, so that's also good. Take it with us and get to Chikikon. In terms of SIGINT, I guess we should check that before we wrap up. Some units planning for an attack on Singapore. That's great. We kind of already knew that. Some units are moving to Kota Baru. Some heavy artillery units are moving to Kota Baru. I don't know where from. Some locations of different units. Okay. I already have quite a few subs at Ambon, Pat. Check reinforcements. Ground reinforcement schedule. We're going to get some hurricanes in Aden next turn. That'll be nice. These American air units are all redeploying to the west coast in 2 days. Blenheim's F4F4s and F2A to Buffaloes in San Diego in 5 days, as well as some other aircraft. Airfield of Arrival, Midway Island. Lol. I wonder where they'll deploy in 5 days. Hey, we'll get some Kitty Hawks in Townsville in 8 days. What about ground units? Because that was group. Ground unit reinforcements. We'll get 3 days. We'll get a coastal anti-aircraft unit at San Francisco. A couple of restricted units at Seattle and Fort Ord. Some restricted units at Ceylon in the Indian Ocean. HQ there as well. 1st Marine Defense Battalion in the South Pacific will arrive at Pearl Harbor. KNL Command, Dutch troops, the Ruden Battalion, 18 assault value in 5 days at Batavia. 1st Australian Corps Engineering Battalion will arrive at Aden in 5 days. We'll want to transfer them to Australia probably, or to Burma. A couple of independent companies will be arriving in Sydney in 5 days as well. I think those might have been reformed troops. Pioneer Battalion's also arriving in Aden as well. Big Wizard Energy, thanks for the new follow, appreciated. And then Northwest Australian Base Force 32 Assault Value arriving in Catherine in 5 days. Aviation Regiment. We've got quite a few troops coming online here in the next 5 days. Wow. Some of them in India, some of them in the Middle East. But yeah. Yeah, Big Wizard. It's an old game. It came out in 2012, 2016. This iteration of it, I think the original iteration of it came out in 2009, and it was based on a 1990s game. It's a very interesting game. Gary Grigsby's War in the Pacific Admirals Edition. The sequel to, or I guess the modded up, enhanced version of Gary Grigsby's War in the Pacific, The Struggle Against Japan, which itself was based off of SSI's game Pacific War, which was also by Gary Grigsby. Back in the 90s, I think it was. But super detailed game, playing as a play-by-email game against XTRG, another YouTuber. You should check him out. Well, don't check him out if you're helping me, because conflict of interest. But in any event, does some other good stuff too. That being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. We've been going for about an hour and 20 minutes on this turn, and that's probably enough for one turn. I don't want to turn these into the XTRG streams where we're doing like a 6-hour stream and turning that into one whole episode. So I'll finish this up offline. I like my shorter summary type videos, but I'll finish this up offline. Hope you're all doing well. Please stay safe, stay indoors as much as you can, or, exercise, but whatever. And hope you're all hanging in there through this COVID stuff. And until next time, I'm out.